Guys, I have not had time to get a haircut this week, so I'm working with a bird's nest at the moment. No, you can't even see. Should I wear a hat? I think I'm gonna wear a hat. Is that allowed? I've never done that before. It's my channel, actually. I can do what I want. Okay, so here's the situation. Obviously, I've been doing a nice mix of BuzzFeed, Bon Appetit, DIY-ish stuff. And I did say I was gonna do the Pocky, but just a few days ago, Claire uploaded another gourmet mix, this time some M&Ms, and I feel like that's perfect. Most of the gourmet mix videos are chocolate-based candies, and I haven't done one yet, so let's get right into this. So, M&Ms, they are a classic American staple. Everybody's had them, except for me. Not even talking about the peanut M&Ms, the plain ones, just the chocolate and candy coating, have that warning where they may contain peanuts, sometimes tree nuts, and as a result, I cannot eat them. Now that I think about it, actually, I've never had M&Ms, Twix, Three Musketeers, Almond Joy, Mounds, Reese's, Snickers, Kit Kats either. It's a sad life, really. If all goes well today, though, I'll be able to have my first ever one. So I grabbed some sugar and powdered sugar, water, milk chocolate, and semi-sweet chocolate, 1 egg, and my secret weapon, these spray food colorings. I figured this is as close as I could possibly get to the airbrusher that Claire ends up using. They're both super artificial food dyes, so it should be about the same. In addition to the food ingredients, we're gonna need quite an ensemble of tools as well, starting with a salad spinner that I looked all over for. I don't think I've ever felt as much of a psychopath as I did going to 6 different stores and asking employees if they had salad spinners. Besides the salad spinner, I grabbed some food-grade molding clay, fishing twine, a drill, some Q-tips, and a little pin or a needle of some kind. Now we are gonna start with this food-safe molding putty. It's similar to an epoxy in that it comes in 2 different parts, and when you mix them together until you get one uniform color, you have 3 minutes after that to mold whatever it is that you want before it sets up super solid, and you'll be able to recast whatever it is that you molded. Obviously mine doesn't have to be as big as Claire's because those peanut M&Ms are much larger than these tiny normal M&Ms, and I figured 6 or 7 at a time should be good enough. You definitely are gonna wanna do the bottom half first with the candies halfway down in them and let that fully solidify before mixing up another batch and throwing it on top. This limits the possibility that the 2 halves are gonna fuse together, and it should peel apart a little bit easier. And I'm actually pretty satisfied with how that turned out, so let's move on to melting some chocolate. I've been dreading this for as long as I've been watching Bon Appetit, just based on the hell that Claire has to go through and has in the past trying to temper chocolate. It's a very involved process of hitting specific temperatures with melted chocolate, adding in some non-melted pieces, mixing it in, bringing it back up to a temperature. I will leave the link of the directions I followed in the description. I don't know if you want to even go look at them because the first batch failed miserably. After I put that little test strip in the freezer for a few minutes, I thought I had it, but it did melt pretty darn quickly in my hands. The only thing is that even if this wasn't temper, I don't think I would know because we recently had a heat wave in New York. It got up to about 88 degrees, my windows were open, and it's very, very hot in here. As a result of this, I'm gonna turn my AC on full blast and wait overnight for it to get super cold in here and give ourselves the best chance of success. The next day, I tried again. I was as precise as I could possibly be with this digital thermometer. I was using half and half milk and dark chocolate. I don't know if that makes a difference. Whatever the case is, I went through the whole process again, and no. I'm now sympathizing with every single episode I've ever watched of Claire making chocolate. For attempt number 3, I tried with just the darker chocolate, because I feel like the milk and dark set at different temperatures that might be messing with each other. Also, dark chocolate sets up a little bit harder, so maybe that'll help us. I also went out and bought an additional candy thermometer to double check this digital thermometer. Maybe that's a bit janky on me. So for the third and hopefully final time, my last 2 bags of chocolate got melted up. Did the same thing with adding the seed chocolate in, bringing it back up to a temperature, and guys, I tested on this metal spatula this time. I thought it would make a difference. It did not. I still don't think this is right, but if I do this again, I'm gonna lose my sanity, if I haven't already. Either way, I gotta move on. Maybe I'll come back. Let's just see what happens with this chocolate. I filled up a squeeze bottle with the chocolate and started to fill my molds. I let it set for 10 to 15 minutes in the freezer. And listen, they came out in one piece, they formed nicely. I might just run with these and see how they end up. Over the course of the next 90-ish minutes, I did a few batches of this, obviously because I only have 1 mold, which is fine, it's no big deal, they're coming out pretty nicely. And once I thought I had enough to work with, I popped those all back in the freezer while I worked on a oversaturated simple syrup solution. There's some Babish alliteration for you. This is basically just a little bit of water with a whole lot of sugar. You just heat your water up to just below boiling and then dissolve as much sugar in the water as it can possibly take. I think this is similar to how kids used to make rock candy. You like put a stick or a string down in there for a few days and the crystals would form. I could be very wrong here, but if you did that as a kid, let me know. While I let the syrup cool down in the fridge, I tried to prepare a cookie sheet with some fishing line. This is definitely the most interesting group of utensils and tools I've ever used. This will just act as a cooling and drying rack to get air all the way around them so the sugar and the food dye dries. And you know what, just for the heck of it, I wanted to dip the chocolate straight into the syrup once it was cooled all the way, just to see what would happen. We might get a nice even coat. So I did 2 or 3. I let them sit for about a half hour underneath a fan. And yeah, those didn't work very much. Because of that, I'm gonna put my salad spinner to use and drill some holes in the top. I would not recommend any of you doing this. Apparently, very rigid plastic salad spinners does not get along with a wood drill. Whatever, it's got some holes, it should work for our purposes anyway. So into a metal bowl, I threw down my first batch of chocolate bits, a little bit of our cooled syrup, and began churning these. If I remember correctly, Claire mentioned each time she coated these in the syrup, she sat there spinning them for 20 minutes, so that is exactly what I did. 20 minutes later, they didn't really look that great. I feel like I might have put too much syrup in there and it's just not drying fast enough, so I rinsed my bowl out, dried it really well, and then got right back to spinning them again. Another 10-ish minutes later, they were a little bit less sticky, so I'm gonna plop them out on some parchment paper underneath a fan and just let these sit for hours until they completely dry out and that sugar turns to like a dusty white. The next morning I came back to these. They were dried out, but they were looking very spotty and unevenly coated. So I'm gonna give them a few more coats and however many hours they need in between to completely dry. Mind you, I started this on Wednesday afternoon. It is Friday afternoon as I'm filming this part. I spent many hours coating them in syrup, spinning them for 30 minutes, letting them dry, washing the bowl out, repeating the process, and at the end I let them sit overnight once again. They're still not super evenly coated. I'm really hoping that the next step, the royal icing, will help even that out. Please, I'm praying at least it will. And as you guys probably know, royal icing is just an egg white and some powdered sugar. You want this one thinner than you would normally make it, so you get a nice crispy, thin outer edge of the icing on our candies. And once I thought I had a good consistency, one by one with my pin, I dip them down in there and I'm gonna let them dry on our fishing line. Outside of the chocolate melting part, none of this is incredibly difficult. It's just so much waiting and drying and repetitiveness. This is like quite a process, I'm warning you if you ever want to try it. Saturday morning, I came back to them and they were completely dried. I don't even know what opinion I have on them really, but the very last step is to coat them in the red and blue food coloring. I wish I had more colors. Unfortunately, this is all that the store had. And you guessed it, once we get all of ours sprayed, we gotta wait a few more hours for them to dry again. I can't really put into words how I feel about spending 4 days for this to be the result. The side-by-side comparison doesn't look horrendous, but let's see how they taste. Can you hear that cricket in the background? That's how I'm feeling right now. I have no clue what day this is going up. I started filming this on Wednesday. It is now Saturday, so I'm sorry if it's days late, but here we are. To be fair, Claire did take a month in the middle of filming these, so I guess 3 or 4 days isn't too bad. This is it. This is what I spent however many hours for. I didn't even count. I wish I did. What the hell? I was expecting a nice snappy crunch on the outside from the candy coating. It's like more powder than anything. It looks okay. The cross section looks decent. I can't wait for you guys to roast me about my horrible dipping, drying, tempering techniques. The comment section's gonna be a wild one on this. I probably should have got a sous vide machine, even though that would have added even more days onto this video. Maybe one day this will get a retry. Until then, I don't even want to look at these anymore. I hope you guys enjoyed today's video, whatever day this went up on. If you did, leave me a like. Don't go too hard in the comments. I put a lot of time into this. Follow me on Twitter and Instagram if you do not already. Other than that, have a fantastic week. I will see you right back here next time. Peace.
With the M without the AD. Flipping burgers and my money super lazy. Try and make a meal tonight, they ain't paying me. Try and supersize my life with my A-team. Yeah, our style wasn't wavy, but we had a vision. We could make it up.